To join us. I especially want to thank our elected officials that are here from the county and the school board. Thank you for taking time to join us in this great announcement. Earlier this morning, the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors unanimously voted that the Chamber initiate and coordinate a process that will create a vision framed by Lubbock citizens for our community's future. The question that visioning process will ultimately answer is, what kind of community and economy do we want in the future? This will help future Lubbock leaders in making decisions that are accountable to the vision set by the citizens. Creating a cohesive community vision will help to ensure the responsible, smart, and prudent use of Lubbock's assets and resources as we face the future. Going into the future without a vision would be like going to the grocery store without a list, which I do all the time. Especially in this economy, it's probably not the wisest thing to do. Lubbock is known for its successful enterprises, and people come here because they know that they can reach their goals because of the great community support. But we can never rest on our laurels as a community. It's our responsibility to ensure Lubbock is ready to weather any potential challenges that come down the road. For example, we have enjoyed economic resilience, but we need to ensure that that continues. Here, and how are we going to accomplish this vision? In this regard, I have appointed David Syme and Michael Schonrock as co-leaders to conduct this visioning process. We will facilitate grassroots input down to the neighborhood level to be included in this public engagement process. This effort will begin with a review of the last major visioning effort conducted by the City of Lubbock in 1995 and will take into account the goals for Lubbock, a vision into the 21st century. Also, as part of this process, we will identify community partners and establish a steering committee for the oversight and organization of the entire process. An example of one of these partners is Civic Lubbock's Cultural Coalition Task Force, which just recently completed a study that made recommendations for stimulating the growth, development, and community support for the cultural arts in Lubbock. Don Harrigan and Mark Bass are with us today and have been part of that process. And we appreciate everything that you've done thus far. But this is only a piece of that visioning effort. Another ally in this visioning process is the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance, or LEDA, as well as Visit Lubbock. We look forward to gaining community input to help them in their economic development and tourism efforts. I don't think we all need to be reminded how much they have done for this community. And with us today, we have John Osborne, who is the CEO and done a great job to represent us, but also was recognized as the Chamber Member of the Month this morning. Another very important community partner will obviously be the City of Lubbock, which is led by someone who has a gifted visionary when it comes to the community's transportation and infrastructure planning. How about that Marcia Sharp Freeway? Lubbock Mayor Tom Martin was recently quoted as saying, "It takes vision to develop an environment where people want to raise their families and grow their businesses." And I don't think any of us could have said that better. At this time, I would like to ask our mayor, Tom Martin, to say a few words.
Thank you, Iracema. First of all, a lot of big, fancy words there in that announcement. So let me try to put it in layman's terms out there. We're going to look at where we need to be going for the next 10, 20, 50 years here in Lubbock. And this is nothing new to the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce. If you look at the history of this community, even before Lubbock was incorporated in 1909, the then predecessor of the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce had a vision for this city to grow by bringing the railroad here. And so they worked very hard and were able to bring rail service to Lubbock. And you have to remember, in the early 1900s, rail was the way to travel as far as passenger service, mail, and goods and trade. We didn't have the highway systems. The Wright brothers had only first flown their test plane only 6 years before that. So it, you know, we needed to have a railroad to be able to grow as a community. Once Lubbock was incorporated, the vision that was outlined by the business community through the Chamber of Commerce was going after Texas Tech University. And as you know, that came about 1925 and 26 with the first class here at Texas Tech, and we know how that's grown. And over the years, there have been many things that the Chamber has been very involved in. During World War II, the Chamber was out front and pushing Lubbock to be able to be a military city. And as you know, we ended up with 2 military bases as a result of that during World War II. And after World War II, kept one of them until 1995. One of the other things that happened is back in the late 1960s, there was a move by the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce in a similar effort called the Goals for the 70s. Dr. John Bradford at the time was the dean of the School of Engineering, or I guess it was the School of Engineering at Texas Tech at that time. And Dr. Bradford headed that committee up. And the Goals for the 70s was kind of a blueprint that not only was it something this community needed to look at doing, but it came in very, very vital when we had the tornado in 1970. The Goals for the 70s outlined, for example, that we should turn the Yellow House Canyon from a literal dump ground from one end of the community to the other to part of our long-term water supply and for recreation purposes. And it also recommended that we build a civic center. It also recommended that we build new library facilities in this community. It also recommended that we pursue getting a medical school and a law school here at Texas Tech University. And we're standing here in the medical school today. And the efforts that were originally outlined as part of the Goals of the 70s galvanized this community and its political leaders to pursue these goals, and they were very successful. And if you take other things that as a result of the Goals of the 70s, the goals of the 80s, and then the efforts in the 90s, a lot of those things have come to fruition. You mentioned the Marcia Sharp Freeway. Actually, that was part of the Goals of the 70s that said that we should have an east-west freeway, and it was originally planned to be along 37th and 38th Street from Avenue A to Slide Road and tied into the Brownfield Highway. That was the original plan. Over the years, it expanded and became the Marcia Sharp along the 4th Street and Brownfield Highway corridor. And we're all very happy to know that the construction that's underway now that will finish up in March will be finished 12 years earlier than was originally projected. And so having these goals for these major things that we need to do in this community are very important. And Madam Chair, the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce, as you can see, has been very much involved in the growth of this community for over 100 years. And I'm looking forward to having a product that we are able to come up with as a result of this process to lead us into the next 10 to 30 to 40 years. I'll just give one thing right now that we need to be working on as part of that. Y'all write this down, okay? We need to pursue getting a school of veterinary medicine here at Texas Tech University. 1977, the legislature authorized us to have a school of veterinary medicine. They didn't appropriate any money for it, but we're going to get started and get that. We can't let the Aggies, Eddie, be the only school that has a school of veterinary medicine here in this state. So there's the first one we can add to the list, and I'm sure that we'll come up with many others. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. I totally support that first goal since one of my granddaughters wants to be a vet. I'd rather she stay here. I am going to turn the podium over to David Simon, Michael Shonrock, that will be leading this effort to entertain any questions that any of you may have. Gentlemen, Please acknowledge their commitment to step forward and initiate this process.
I'm glad we now have one thing on the list. Thank you, Mayor.
Questions?
Comments? Answers?
How long will it take for you to do it?
It's a process. And if you know anything about visioning, I think it's important to understand a vision is something big. And I can't think of a better organization than the Giant Side of Texas to think about something big. You hear a lot about planning, and planning is really sort of as part of the process. It really kind of connects the vision with the action plan. So I think it's going to take some time. It's a process, and so that's what we want to go through, and we want to do it thoughtfully.
If people from the community have things that maybe they envision for what they hope will, I guess, come to Lubbock, will there be some sort of way that they can give their input?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We will have a website. It'll be up at least for the first year and allow citizens to comment and to make recommendations and so forth. As part of that, our objective is to utilize as much of the community as we can, cutting across all socioeconomic groups. And we intend to get a lot of input. So it's going to be, again, referring back to how long it'll take, it's going to be a long process to get all this done. So we're just establishing the foundation presently for what we're going to be doing, and be putting together a steering committee, formulating a budget. And I think it's important for our citizens to know that we do not plan to use any tax money for this process. It'll all be privately funded. And we're very excited about and honored to be a part of this process.
Yes?
You mentioned that something like this hasn't taken place since '95. What is it about right now, this time for Lubbock, that made you guys create this committee?
This is a great time. Well, I think it all comes down to asking the right kind of questions. We're looking at a lot of growth and development in terms of the economy, and looking at the growth of this community. And I think it's just a wonderful time for us to think ahead. And I guess you always ask, when do you start? Well, you start now.
David and Michael, I applaud you for being willing to do this. There's been a lot of work done by different organizations. You mentioned one earlier. How are you gonna pull that information together? And certainly you don't have to start at the bottom. You can build on that. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, there's a lot of information. Part of our initial steps is already looking at the information that's been put together. There's been a lot of good information, a lot of good plans over the years. And so just like any other good organization, any good business, first you have to look at the data that's available and the information that's available, and then take that as potentially a way to operate, to ask other types of questions. I think one of the most important things we're trying to do is what questions aren't being asked. As someone who thinks about the future all the time, one of the questions I always ask myself every day is kind of like, what if it could be accomplished today would positively change the future of our community? And so I think we need to start asking some questions. There's been a lot of good information. A lot of folks in the past have asked different types of questions. Let's look at that information and try to use that as a foundation to ask even better questions for the future.
Part of the process also will be to be looking at other cities across the country that have been through this process. We'll probably be targeting cities of 300,000 to 500,000. We'll go visit with them. We'll, in all likelihood, be bringing on an outside consultant. You have to remember, Michael and I are leading this, but we've never done it before. We've done it in business, but we haven't done it, or in education, but we haven't done it on a scale like this. So we're going to need some outside help. So there will be a lot of questions that we're just not capable of answering because we haven't done it. So we're taking it step by step. We're going to be very methodical, make sure we don't mess around with the foundation, as I indicated earlier, to make sure we have something very positive to build on. And I think it'll be a very exciting process for the community. One of the things that I think is going to be extraordinarily important, though, when we talk about process, that's different than the event. Right now we're thinking of this, this is an event, but it's got to be a process that's ongoing beyond however much time it takes to deliver the final document. There needs to be very specific goals. There needs to be very specific action plans, timeframes, and who's going to be held accountable. Because without accountability, we can have all the vision and all in the world, but we're going to have accountability to make sure things get done.
What's that old saying? When you come to a fork in the road, take it. We want to be sure we get the right fork.
You're saying that it's gonna be a community-wide effort. How do you plan on getting the grassroots? How do you plan on getting the community involved?
Well, I think the first step, and David and I already started to work on, is developing a steering committee. And those who have one thing, keep in mind, passion for the community. We both love Lubbock, and we want to do whatever we can to help support its future growth and development. Lubbock's been wonderful to us, and so we want to try to return that in different ways. I think the first step is working on developing a steering committee, and then from there, generally in community visioning, you'll have opportunities for the community to be engaged at different levels. And then later on, you may need to develop certain type of task force in certain types of areas of interest. So it's a start, it's a process, but we do want to provide every opportunity, and I know the technology is there to provide opportunities as well for people to, share their thoughts and ideas.
And how would you go about acquiring the private funding in that perspective? Because I guess, would it be, local businesses? Where do you think, how would you go about acquiring that?
Something tells me that's going to be our first step. But we're going to have to look we want to look at private funds and ways to support that. We've got tremendous support from our chamber and the business leaders. And so I think that one of the first steps we're going to have to do is figure out what that cost is going to be and develop a budget. And from there, then I think we can take, what would be the next step. But thank you for your donation. And I'll be sure to write it down.
That's one thing. We need to make sure we have fun with this.
Well, that's right.
It's hard business. There'll be a lot of hard decisions, but we want it to be fun. We want the community to enjoy being a part of it. And if we do it right, and with this guy, I promise you.
Thank you. If we have anything.
Well, I'm an incurable optimist. I think my hair is going to come back someday, so it'll be fine.
If we have anything to do with it, it'll be fun. Thank y'all.
Thank you again, gentlemen. Thank you, Mayor, for being part of this event that is initiating the process, as was stated. And thank you all for being here today. If there's any additional questions, I know these gentlemen will be around, and maybe some of our partners as well. Thank you all. Have a great day.